In the mid 1980s, Seattle rock star Chris Cornell started dating Susan Silver, and then they were married in 1990. They divorced in 2004, and that's the year he married his second wife, Vicky. I was reminded of this when I saw Lily, his daughter, with Susan. She has some kind of project, helping people with depression, which Chris suffered from, and I guess maybe Lily has some mental issues, and just charming person and playing the piano and stuff. And yeah, I mean, Chris, you should have stuck with Susan. It's the typical story. Your second wife, Vicky, is like the Courtney Love character. Greedy monster, avaricious psychopath.
What he did that night in taking his life.
I don't think that he could make any decisions.
Chris had some drug problems. He committed suicide, but Vicky and her two kids with Chris were able to successfully sue Chris's doctor, like this Dr. Nick character who was giving him OxyContin and shit. And so she capitalized on Chris that way. She capitalized by inheriting some, if not much, of his wealth. And that's her life is, oh, I'm the wife of this rock star. At one point, I remember reading that Chris had opened a restaurant nightclub in Paris. I thought, that's odd. Why the hell would he do that? And so this is Doom Planet, the obituary podcast. We're going to talk about Chris Cornell. We're disparaging people in his life. We're not disparaging Chris or Susan or his first child or his other children who are still minors. Give them the Barron Trump treatment. You don't go after them until they become adults. And yeah, this is, I'm doing another project that takes up much of my time. And so the Doom Planet obituary podcast, I'm paying $7 a month for my hosting. I'm whipping out a half-assed, unscripted piece of shit, 10, 20-minute podcast only once a month. And I don't want to talk about my other project because I don't want to cross-contaminate the two. And yeah, Chris, one of his problems was that he became a rock star at a very young age, rich and famous, and women were throwing themselves at him. And of course, he's married to Susan. And so what does he do? There was some infidelity, but he didn't get to live that rock star life. And that's the whole fucking point of playing this simplistic 3-chord bang on a drum, cock rock. And, you can call it grunge. You can call Soundgarden grunge, but it's really just blues-based cock rock sung by guys with long hair, just like all that 60s bullshit. So Soundgarden, early on, they were opening for Guns N' Roses on a tour, and the guys in Guns N' Roses called them Frown Garden because they're like, come on, let's party all night long. And Kim and Chris of Soundgarden are like, no, I gotta go to bed. My wife wants me to go to sleep. And Chris, there's more than one song that he wrote. He's has a beautiful voice, competent guitar player, brilliant songwriter. More than one song of his is about basically my rich and famous wife who made me a rich and famous rock star. Well, we're married, and so I can't fuck other women that are throwing themselves at me, so I think I want to hang myself. She lived like a murder, how she'd fly so sweetly. She lived like a murder, but she died, just like suicide. Vicky Cornell, the Courtney Love of gold diggers. But she's not as interesting as Courtney Love. Courtney Love had an interesting childhood, interesting family. She was a musician of sorts herself. And Vicky is just like, I was this poor peasant European woman. I had no idea who Chris was or who Soundgarden was. I just thought he was handsome, and he is very handsome. All the girls loved him. And if you love Vicky Cornell, perhaps you'd like to donate to the Chris and Vicky Cornell Foundation. We support the causes Chris loved the most, helping vulnerable children. Chris is not big on politics. In fact, the all-white, all-male phenomenon of grunge is apolitical in the extreme. We can, despite Kurt Cobain wearing a dress during a photo shoot, Kurt maybe was more political than the rest. Funny how Susan, we love her dearly. She managed Alice in Chains, and that was Lane Staley was a handful, drug addict most of his life, and she did the best she could, and she managed Soundgarden the best she could, and she also gave Nirvana advice early on about how to deal with record labels. So she's an invaluable part of the music scene, and a bunch of it's like a town is poor when you see a 30-something white guy who's shirtless, covered with tattoos, backward baseball cap, smoking a cigarette, riding like a child's banana seat bike. Now that guy knows who Chris Cornell is, but he probably doesn't know who Susan Silver is. Nothing on Charity Navigator about the Chris and Vicky Cornell Foundation. Wow, who the fuck does she think she is? Melinda fucking Gates? But over at ProPublica, we find some info. It's really not a big foundation. They got $80,000 here, $100,000 there. Some grants. Child Haven paid for the Chris Cornell Music Therapy Program $20,000. The Addiction Policy Partnership from K Street in Washington, D.C. Contribution for the children, $15,000. More telling of a donation, the New York Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. They donated $47,500 for a spring luncheon contribution, food and wine gala contribution. So Vicky Cornell has used this tax-free charity to throw a $50,000 food and wine party in honor of herself and all her good works. Someone took a travel advance of $4,726. Borrower's name, Chris and Vicky Cornell. So these very rich people are borrowing from their nonprofit because they need money for a plane ticket. And in closing, I must mention the statue of Chris Cornell. There's a statue, a bronze statue of Chris Cornell. And in Seattle, God, and of all the people coming out of Seattle to have a statue, I mean, Jimi Hendrix, yes, that statue's been around for a while. Chris Cornell, he killed himself. He's addicted to the rich man's heroin known as OxyContin that his doctor got him, and he got rich early in life, and he really cares about the children. That is his cause. Someone vandalized the statue, and people were up in arms. How dare you vandalize a statue of Chris Cornell? So the reason we're covering someone that died a few years ago is because this is an obituary podcast, but no one is dying on us. I can't think of any major death. I mean, we're going to talk about people, obscure people that die too, but I'm waiting for Kissinger, I don't know, a baby boomer musician. They're all in their 80s now. Someone, please die so that next month, the month of June, we can do a more sufficient podcast, obituary podcast, something more interesting, something that's like an hour long. Please, out there, die, die, die. Dazed out in a garden bed with a broken neck lays my broken gift, just like suicide. I'm your host, Alex. This has been the Doomed Planet podcast, part of the Wild World News Network. If you know someone who has died, email me, doomedplanet lucrativepod@gmail.com. Goodbye.
My husband was the furthest thing from a rock star junkie. He just wasn't. He was the best husband, the greatest father. I lost my soulmate and the love of my life. He wanted to be there for his family, for his children. He loved his life. He loved his, he would never have ever left this world.
Diamond rope, silver chain, pretty noose is a pretty pain. And I don't like what you got me hanging from. And I don't like what you've got me hanging from. And I don't like what you've got me hanging from. And I don't like what you've got me hanging from. Hey everybody, it's Alex again. I was talking with my good friend and podcaster Jason Ridgen, and we were talking about music rights and whatnot, and how Google and Facebook and whatnot, they're going to penalize you if you use music that's within their algorithm as, copyrighted intellectual property. I've done a little bit of little snippets of stuff in this podcast, mostly obscure punk bands that might not be in the database. But I did go back and re-edit, inspired by Jason. I took out some clips from Johnny Cash's version of Chris's Rusty Cage, and of course some clips from Pretty Noose and a couple other songs, and I just did it as spoken word. And it's too bad because Chris had a very beautiful, very powerful voice. You're not going to hear that in this podcast. Maybe if we were making $1 million a month like Chapo Trap House, we could just buy the rights to the music. Okay, we will see you next month. And again, I really hope someone dies so we can do a podcast. We'll do like everyday unknown Joe, man on the street obituaries, but I want someone huge to die. Come on, Kissinger, let's go. Go, 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 die.
If somebody finds me when I'm dead and gone, if somebody finds me when I'm dead and gone, say I did self-murder, I died with my boots on. Took a Smith and Wesson and blew out my brain. Took a Smith and Wesson and blew out my brain. Didn't take no poison, I couldn't stand the strain. No, I ain't no coward, and I'll tell you why. No, I ain't no coward, and I'll tell you why. I was tired of living, but wasn't ready to die. Take me to the graveyard, put me in the ground. Take me to the graveyard, put me in the ground. Please write on my tombstone, my daddy threw me down. In my farewell letter, someone sure to find goodbye, oh